Welcome to this episode of Author Decade. I'm Travis Davis, your host. Tell us your story. Hey, everybody. Got a kind of a special guest today. I'm actually have a Marine, and I'm an Army, but we get along. And this is Tim Jensen. He is the co-founder of Grunt Style. But not only that, veteran, combat veteran, philanthropist. I think his 3x5 card is his business card, not the normal size business card. It's a 3x5 card. It's a little bigger than everybody else's. But he's written or writing a great series of books that Defiance Press is publishing. And I want to have him on there to talk about his books. But then I'm also going to give him some time to talk about the foundation, the good things the Grunt Style Foundation does and everything that he does to help veterans out, because we have got to give back to our community, or we'll never have another community to give back to, because people will not want to join. So if you don't take care of now, there's not going to be any left to take care of. So, Tim, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Right on, Travis. Well, I'm glad that you finally have brought some quality to your show. I mean, not that it's me, it's more the Marine Corps, had to jazz this place up a little bit, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And it's a great opportunity. You and I have met on this crazy path of books, right? You're an author, I'm an author. We worked through our partner, Defiance Press and Publishing, which is an incredible partner that is doing some great stuff, and it's given me the ability to tell something of a story that I'm very, very proud about. And that's our Violent But True Bedtime series. But before I get into all of that, I'll give you a little bit about myself and who I am, and what I've done with Grunt Style over the years. And I'll roll it all the way back to when I was a young wee little lad, a 17-year-old wet behind kid that had a big choice ahead of him. It is going to the great wide world beyond what I knew, living in my mother's house and being coddled for 17 years. It was go to college or join the Marine Corps, or get a job and kind of grudge it out. Well, I didn't want to do two of the three things, and I was not college material, because I really hated high school. And then I didn't want to go out into the world and start doing things that I just didn't have any real direction for. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was involved in architecture and things of that nature, but that all needed college, and I certainly didn't want to do that. And I was really enamored by my grandfather. And when I was a young kid, I found his medal box from his service during World War II, and he never really told anybody about it. And from that point further, it was something that, really stuck out to me. And I told my mother that I wanted to join the Marine Corps, and she was aghast. She's like, "The Marine Corps? Are you about you're going to die?" All this stuff, right? But, she came from a time period, and I understand it, right? Is that, when she was in high school, most of her friends and the males that she knew went off to Vietnam, and a lot of them didn't come back. And I think she really wanted to make sure that the decision I was making was of sound mind, and that I truly understood the consequences of and the potentials of that decision. So we were living in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time, and she took me up to Washington, D.C., which was a short little drive away. During Memorial Day, and we went to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and saw all these different things.
That's an amazing place. If nobody's ever been, you have got to go. It'll change your perspective of life.
That's right. And and my perspective changed at that very moment, Travis. And my mother copied down most of the names that she could find through the register and then on the wall. And that was the first time I saw my mother cry, really, in a way that I didn't impose upon her from the stupid thing I was doing. So that left a mark on me. And as we were driving home, she's like, "Is this really what you want to do, Tim?" And I was like, after seeing that, of course, it has evoked such an emotion from you that yes, this seems like the right decision. And that left me on this path. And fast forward, from 1997 to 2005, I served in the United States Marine Corps in different capacities, with Amtracker in my active duty days, and ended my time in the Marine Corps as an infantryman with combat experience in Iraq, 2004, 2005, in the Triangle of Death, and that really, all predicated off of 9/11, right? I joined the Marine Corps, I get out, go back to Chicago to do, my regular the rest of my life planning.
Yep.
And September 11th happened, and I found myself back in the Marine Corps. So, and then that led, I come from a big family. All my brothers and sisters. I've got 7 total between blood and step. Combat, and all the Marines are in the Navy, so it's been quite the adventure, and that led me into grunt style. Fast forward, a lot of time in between, but came to grunt style as a folding t-shirts was the first job that I ever had.
With one of those things, or did you fold them by hand? Do you have one of those things you
by hand? Folded by hand, right? And then and it was a very unique time, right? I just graduated college. I have a degree under my belt. I graduated cum laude and couldn't get anything in the design industry, so I had to take the next best thing, and that was just anything that was willing to pay me money. So I found this job at Grunt Style folding t-shirts, and from there it's just all like a field of opportunity. And from that, the founder Daniel Alaric was really receptive to the idea of, like, if you see an opportunity, go after it and take it, and that's what I did. And from folding t-shirts, I held nearly every position in this building, in this business. And went from folding t-shirts to be press operator, lead press operator, production manager, operations manager, chief operating officer, partner, president, and then now we are in the Grunt Style Foundation, and I chair as the president of the foundation, and sit as the chief brand officer, co-owner on the Grunt Style side. So the path has been really fun to see over the years, the growth of the company. When I came on board, but I don't even think we had made $1 million at that point. And now we're a $130+ million brand. So we've been able to scale this business in monumental ways, and as well as understanding that our community is a very unique community, and with that uniqueness comes a set of things and needs that are much different from the greater cohort or the greater population of the United States. So that really built and launched us into the platform of our foundation and some of the things that we're doing there. So it's been the journey, my friend, a little longer in the tooth, but thank God for my Irish roots, it hasn't really shown up on my face.
Exactly. I've got a lot of Irish in me. Also, I also joined the Army at 17 years old. I was in the 11th grade, and I thought I knew everything, and I was graduating my 11th year. Well, it was October of 1976, and it was a Thursday. I went home and said, I'm done. I'm going to join the Army. And I was already on the delayed entry program to be a helicopter mechanic. And my mom and dad said, no. I go, I'm going to quit school. They said, well, my dad was Air Force veteran, 3 tours in Vietnam. My mom built P-38s in World War II. So there's a long history of patriotism. So Friday, I quit high school, and the principal came up to my mom and said, Travis will never amount to shit. Well, I think, I'm probably just a turd now, so I'm doing better. So that's on Tuesday, I was in basic training Fort Knox, and instead of becoming a helicopter mechanic, I listened to a captain at the MEPS, and he said, "Oh, there's a great job. It's called a Cavalry Scout. Outside." I go, "I like to be outside." Oh my goodness! So Fort Knox Tuesday, second youngest in the troop, and 20 years later, I got out as a Cav Scout. So I did the entire time as combat arms, MOS, and I say that you have a son in the Navy serving abroad right now.
That's correct. Yeah, he's quite the young lad. What is the most amazing thing about that? Is you look at the country where we're at right now, right? We just came off a 20-year war that had a significant contribution of Americans into it. Still not rising above the 1% number, but 3.5 billion veteran Americans raised their hand and went off to fight in in this war, both in Afghanistan, Iraq, and some other nation states around the world that were part of those campaigns. And the country's tired, right? The country's tired of war. They're exhausted from this conflict, and they would just want to get on with their lives and their children's lives.
Yep.
And we're seeing some problems within our country right now, and a lot of facets. But let's focus specifically on our recruiting and our national security. The United States military is experiencing one of the worst recruiting periods in modern era.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from the fact that these children today have grown up watching their veteran parents being treated like shit by our American government and thrown aside, and I don't have to point very far to, I don't know, the VA healthcare system. I can point to the toxic exposure conversation that had the country upside down just 2 years ago.
Yep.
And all these children are watching this. They're watching how these veterans are treated. They're watching how they are often left in positions of mental disrepair, homelessness, suicide, all these negative things that are happening within the cohort of the veteran community. And it's not a big surprise why retention is down, right? And not to mention the food insecurities that are happening within the active duty military. And not being paid a living wage. And I don't care what the DOD says. I'm not very, they don't like me anyways. But at the end of the day, like if anybody in DOD is telling me that they're getting paid a living wage, it's probably that they have brass on their collar, because anybody that's on the enlisted side is not getting paid a living wage. And the numbers are there to represent that more than 1 in 4 families, and it's actually between 1 and 6, but let's call it 1 in 4 families are food insecure. Why are our active duty military forces more worried about putting food on their table than putting rounds in the faces of our enemy? That is question number 1. So to see that my son has raised his hand, even having to experience 18 years of my post-combat situation and experiences, and he's had to live through that, and he's had to watch me struggle. He's had to see his dad locking himself in a closet and crying uncontrollably and all these things, but he still raised his hand, and he's now he called me on Tuesday. This kid has only been in the military for just over a year, went in as an E3 because of his time in Sea Cadets. And now he just got promoted to E4. This little bastard is going to outrank me in his first 2 years of military service. And I did just about 8.5, 9 years. So, but I'm very proud of that. But again, there are a certain slice of this country of people that get it, right? But unfortunately, it's not enough. And the problem that we have here, and it goes back to General Washington. You can it's not the exact quote, but you guys get the general idea is, you can judge a nation, but the health of a nation by the way it treats its veterans. Well, we are very unhealthy as a country right now. And it's because of the way we are treating our veterans, the most treasured resource this country has in terms of its longevity, self-defense, and ability to project power around the world. So we got some big problems. If we don't change it very quickly, we could have larger problems that are more defining of a community and a culture that I don't think the American people are ready to swallow.
I don't think my son, he's a combat veteran Army. He served a short tour in Afghanistan and the geospatial space, military intelligence. He's out. But I've heard difference. Like, I was in volunteer Army, right? Volunteer Army, late 70s, 80s, 90s. And I've never seen as many E6s and everything get out of the Army. Not even retire, just get out. After 10 years or 12, you got to figure why somebody that's invested over half the time to get a pension to just get out. It doesn't. It's phenomenal. It's mind. I mean, when I got out of the Army, my dad said, "Don't go to the VA." that was like, "Don't go to the VA." So I was hesitant to go. Right. I mean, I got my own medical, but for disability or whatever. But it we need to do a better job of just not a bunch of words.
Really quickly, because I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
The VA healthcare system is a dynamic system, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are cities across the United States that are performing extraordinarily well and are the gold standard of healthcare within the
And I've
veteran
been
space.
there. Yes.
I've seen it myself, right?
Yep.
But then there are places like Chicago that are not, that are piss poor, and you see veterans that are doing cocaine in the waiting rooms, and I've seen that with my own eyes,
Mm-hmm.
because the level of service is so bad,
Mm-hmm.
and the quality of care is non-existent. So there are both sides of the coin here. The thing that I'm enjoying the most is seeing a of the Secretary of the VA, and that's Secretary McDonough. I've had the privilege of working side by side with this individual when we were working on the PACT Act, and seeing his passion and his desire for a better outcome within the veteran cohort.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ladies and gentlemen, we've got somebody there now that is doing more than I've ever seen in the space, and that's not to speak ill of previous cabinet secretaries like David Shulkin or others, right? Different time, different
Right.
operating system. But I think the work that Secretary McDonough is doing for the community right now is extraordinary, and he's trying his best to make a difference. And look at the way the PACT Act has been rolled out. It's the largest piece of legislation in the veteran community in arguably 70 to 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the rollout of this thing, while not perfect, has been far from abysmal. It's been great. Like, you're getting more people brought into the system, getting access to these veterans, getting access to the healthcare that they desperately need. And to me, I consider that a victory, and something that that we did as a group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the point of what I'm trying to say here, is what we did with the PACT Act was, it was a bunch of individuals that worked tirelessly over a period of a decade or more, that have brought enough pressure to Congress that we were able to get the largest veteran healthcare package passed in American history. Period.
Wow.
So you can all do this,
right.
And all it really takes is a great team that is not befuddled with egotistical counter agendas that are all these people are marching towards a similar goal. If it's more dynamic that, but in its simplest state, this is achievable. So we still have a republic. We still have this opportunity to influence legislation at its most grassroots level. So there, I'm encouraged, and I'm enjoying that opportunity still exists.
Actually, put them in formation and march into the front. So so let's talk about your books. Why you got a lot going on? Why? How? Where can we get them? How? Tell me about your books. I was at Comic-Con with you. I checked it out. I was like, the artwork is fantastic, beautiful, right? And it's a great story. Your first one's a great story. Benavidez, who was a Medal of Honor winner in Vietnam, and I happened to have met at Fort Hood back in the early '80s at Fort Hood. He had come by. I think he was out of the Army by then. Sorry, Major. So tell us about him.
Yeah, so the Violent but True Bedtime series really has been something that we've been doing for a long time. It's been a passion project internally of many people, and it's these little stories of great Americans who wore the uniform and have done some incredibly valorous things in their military career, often to the detriment of their own life, and mostly to the saving of a life to their left and their right. And these are incredible stories, right? So, when I remember going back to my military career, excuse me, when I was in boot camp, I was a Crucible Marine, and when I went through the Crucible, it's the 1 year anniversary of that, and we had CNN out there, and all the cameras. Oh my God, we're going to be on TV, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
the thing of the Crucible, it's a 3-day exercise, where you're humping 58 miles over the course of 3 days. You're doing all these obstacles, a minimal sleep, minimal food, super high stress, and you're reenacting, very specific Medal of Honor situations in some of these obstacles that you have to go negotiate through this whole exercise. And that really has stuck with me my entire life. Listening to those Medal of Honor stories as they're being told to you in a small setting, and then you have to reenact that entire situation and solve your way through it. That's really stuck with me. So, fast forward in time, our founder, approached me with this idea. He's like, Tim, what do you think about doing these stories? And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I would love to do this. I'm a student of history. I love military history and culture. And what better way of, continuing to tell these, incredible stories and keeping the spirit of these people alive by continuing to pass them down to generations of America. This, my friends, is how folklore and history is continued in cultures. And I want to be a part of that. Like, I could easily write books about myself and all the stupid shit that I've done throughout my life, but nobody cares about me, Tim Jensen. I don't even care about me, Tim Jensen. I like writing stories about other people and really showcasing what great examples of the American spirit truly are, and they are among us. They're among all of us. We don't have to look very far. We don't, and these aren't just military members, right? These are just, this can go down to the American citizen. There's great people within our local communities that are doing things. I just happen to choose, military individuals because that's a niche that I'm quite familiar with. So, we've been doing the video content series for about 9 years now. We've got well over 100 episodes and some 150 plus million views on these programming. And it's been very fun. So, what I had this idea during COVID, I'm like, man, we have all these great videos. I have experience in doing graphic novels and comic booking. I had my own comic book business many lifetimes ago. And I think I can do this, right? So I was like, what story do I want to tell? Well, there's the best story ever. I'm gonna tell the story of Roy Benavidez. So I go through the motions of storyboarding and illustrating it, and going through all that. And I was like, oh, okay, great. I think we've got something of value here. And and then something really cool happened. Is we had an employee here that was really close to one of the daughters of Roy Benavidez, and made the introduction. And we got the whole family to come and really endorse the book.
Right.
That was such a magical moment in time that you're getting the children of this American icon that is endorsing your book, that is telling the story in a more cheeky type of reclamation of an incredible story that holds reverence, but being presented in a more fun and telling way. And that was a beautiful thing. And we're really honored by that endorsement. And we don't take that very lightly, because again, for us here at Grunstyle, it's about the legacy of who we are as a people, and the legacy of our warrior class. And we can deny it as much as we want to, but this country has been in perpetual combat for nearly 240 years.
Yeah.
And we are a warrior culture, and there's something to be celebrated about that, because our level and our contributions to that warrior culture has brought more freedom and has broken oppression across more countries in our short period of time than any other time in human history. And to me, that's something to celebrate, and that's why we do these books.
Yeah, so I remember as a kid, I was we were on Griffiths Air Force Base in Rome, New York, and I had been 9 years old. And I was looking through Encyclopedia Britannica. Folks that don't know, that is a bunch of books with information that they update it every year.
Early Google.
And, yeah, the Google of the 60s and 70s and before that. And I was looking through and looking at flags. And I was going through and looking at all the flags, and came up to the United States flag, and I looked at other flags. I went to my dad, and I go, Dad, I mean, look at how beautiful these flags are. I said, the United States flag is so plain. And he goes, son, no. He goes, if you've ever watched the news or been where I've been, if anybody is ever feel like they're in danger or they want freedom or they want not to be oppressed or everything, where is the first place they go? They go
Yeah,
to where the American flag flies,
that's
right?
right.
And
We're
that's what
still
we
the
got to get
shining
back to.
beacon on the hill.
That's right. That's right. Ronald Reagan, and we have to get back to that because that's always stuck with me. That it's red, white, and blue, but my God, it's so beautiful.
Well, and I don't get into the politics of things
Mm,
really, because at the end of the day, politics is trash. It will
yep.
rot your brain.
Yes.
It is meant for one thing, and that's to divide and separate.
Yep.
But the thing that I'm encouraged about, and I get the luxury, and it really is a luxury, and I understand that and I respect it, of traveling the country and speaking to people all across the United States in the work that we do with the foundation and the
Mhm.
LLC. And we're not as divided as everybody wants us to believe, like the
No, we're
media,
not.
the
We are
government
not.
wants us to believe. Right? The things that are happening to us are by design, right? The things that are being injected into our communities and to our culture is by design. There's a social engineering that's happening for a very specific reason of separating the masses, because when America is unified, when America has a single goal that it's operating towards, we were able to put people on the moon.
Mhm.
But when we are
Yeah,
separated, right, then we are all and we're being kowtowed by the influencers that have captivated our minds. Then we get nothing but separation and division. So, I'm not of that mind. I'm not of the hive mentality.
right.
Uh, and I just have to go outside and look around and see the greatness that is happening all the time, from people helping others across the street to helping a homeless individual get a meal that they are just that they need, right? So
Exactly.
this is the greatest place on earth. We are still the shining beacon on the hill, and we have a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do.
Mhm.
But I still think that it's the greatest place still, and
Yep.
it will be for some time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I walk around a lot. I go. I've been all over the place, United States and Europe, and you always come back and people waving, say hi, how are you doing? Open doors to somebody. They open the door for you, and it doesn't matter what color you are, where you're from, your whatever orientation or religion. It doesn't matter. People get along, and I think that makes some people mad that we get along. That's just crazy. That to me, that's crazy. But so, how many books are you going to have in your series?
Oh, that's a great question. So, the first book of our collector series is, Roy Benavidez, and we are contracted with our great partners at Defiance
Mhm.
for 12 books over the next 3 years. So, what you're going to see, my friends, is once a quarter a book coming out in the Violent but True Bedtime series
Mhm.
collection that you're going to be able to buy from gruntstyle.com for that collector's book, right? And that collector's book is going to be much different from the other offerings that you'll be able to find in Barnes and Nobles and
Mhm.
Amazon and the other areas that you all shop for your literature. So you're going to get this very unique collector's edition from the Grunt Style store. That it will remind you of reading books from your childhood, right?
Right.
So it's very much modeled after the Golden Bear, the books from the '80s, with that
Mhm.
foiled spine,
Yep.
beautiful, rich artwork on the
Mhm.
cover, satin touch for all you individuals that love the sensory of putting your hands on great things.
Mhm.
Down to the pages. The pages are satin finished and really, really nice quality. I think Defiance knocked it out of the park with this product. And you're going to be able to get that at gruntstyle.com only for that particular collector's edition. August 8th of this year, we'll be rolling out the soft cover version and the digital print that you'll be able to get we're super excited about this big project.
Mhm.
It's going to be fantastic, and I hope all of you guys that are listening are wanting to own a little bit of your own history, and it's something that you'll be able to share with your family and continue in your own personal way of telling these stories and keeping the individuals mentioned within them alive.
Yeah, they're beautiful books. I like to say that Anybody that visits Arlington, Texas, you can go to the Medal of Honor Museum. Is in Arlington, Texas. Beautiful. The books are beautiful. So I want to kind of shift gears. I want to talk to you about your foundation and what you do, what's your goal, what's your mission, because I think it's important because you know a little bit of what you guys bring in go into that foundation. Would that be a true statement?
Yeah, yeah. So, this is something that we've been doing for quite some time. As long as I've been with the company, we've had a very, hard focus on what do we do to give back to our community. And, for years, we just did things and we never really asked, did it for notoriety. We never marketed it. We're not that type of individuals that are looking to get clapped on the back and say, hey, great job, guys, for doing this. That's not our style.
Right.
We're American veterans, military veterans, and we know what right looks like, and we just do the things that are right. We don't ask for any accolades. But as the business has continued to grow, and the needs and the demands are becoming much more rich and vast. It made sense for us to open our 501c3, the Grunstyle Foundation, and with that we are focused on a very few specific needs of the veteran community, right? And active duty, right? So we don't just service the veteran cohort; we're servicing active duty. So within that, it's 4 pillars of focus: mental health and wellness, food insecurities, transition and sustainment, and veteran homelessness. Now, the things that we do to attack veteran homelessness, well, that's what we're swimming upstream for, because there's a lot of things that are impacting that veteran before they're making the choice to live on the streets or thrown onto the streets for their own survival. And a lot of those things could, we are in we have the abilities to control them. Food insecurity being number one, right? Think of it this way, right? For all of our military listeners out there, right? We've seen this 100 times, where you got a young military couple, that has been married for probably a year or two. Then they bring a new addition into the family. That stress is already demanding to the relationship. Then you start adding in some of the other problems of, okay, well, we don't get paid enough to feed the family. We're already struggling before that. And then all the bills start piling up, and then the stress is unmanageable within a relationship, and then you see separation, or you see some sort of substance abuse. And that spins out of control, right? Because it goes usually unchecked, because the military doesn't give a shit, and it's down at the platoon level.
And they'll put you right out for it too. They'll kick you out in a heartbeat for it on the street.
Yeah, 100%, right? And then so then you get the family separation, and then you get further addiction abuses that are starting to pop up within the active duty individual or the veteran. And the next thing that person's on the street, or they're taking their own life. So I've seen it 100 times myself. I had a great friend that I lived with, and we really did some trying to help him out. And I've been friends with that family for over 20 years, and godfather of their children. So it's this problem has been going on for a long time. And that's what we really start putting efforts into the food insecurities that are happening within active duty. So last year we delivered 84 tons of food to active duty military. This year we'll add to that. We'll deliver 124 tons of food. We've already completed 2 iterations this year at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The second being Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. Then we will be moving on to a National Guard unit in Springfield, Missouri, coming up in Q3. And then ending the year here, Q4, down in San Antonio, Fort Sam, where we'll be partnering with the command there to end the year. So it's a big program for us. We are also focused in mental health and wellness. We give out 12 hyperbaric chambers every year for veterans struggling with soft tissue damage, TBIs, things, other ailments that HBOT has shown to have positive results towards. And we're making sure that these individuals are getting those units delivered straight to their home, so they can, enjoy these modalities of treatment in their own home and without putting out anywhere between $175 to $400 every time they go to use the system. So we put this in their home.
Wow.
It costs us about $6,000 to get all the unit, the condenser, and the oxygen all sent to the home, and the veteran then has that at their own disposal. And what we've seen is extraordinary results that are happening within the veterans that are using the system. Excellent. So that's a very big program of ours. And mental health, and continuing in the mental health and wellness side, suicide prevention is a big approach of ours. And that ties in with our advocacy work. So I mentioned a little bit about our work with the PACT Act. We've made some great relationships during that time period, and we've also got some equity in our name now that we were involved in getting major legislation into law. So we've been capitalizing on that by continuing to focus on issues that are affecting the veteran community, and crafting and partnering with great people to bring forward legislation to offset some of the needs. Most specifically, I'm a founding member of the Veteran Mental Health and Leadership Coalition, and what we're focused on there is bringing new modalities of treatment to suicide prevention, to the mental health of our veteran community. And we're looking at different things. We have to break the paradigm of the circular treatment that's happening right now that ultimately does no benefit to the veteran. By giving a veteran SSRIs and tranquilizers does nothing to service the individual's mental health. It actually makes their mental health worse. And I've seen more
become
people
dependent, right? Then you got another vicious cycle that you've got to do. Then it goes all back to the homeless. Then it goes into food insecurity. Then it goes back to suicide. So it's just a perpetual motion of not the right things to do for the veteran.
It's bad treatment. And unfortunately, we've lost far too many. And the war, this is incredible. We sit here and we talk about, veteran suicide awareness. I'm going to do my 22 push-ups. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to hear about push-ups anymore. I think we are all aware that veterans are taking their lives in numbers that we don't even truly comprehend yet. Right. The 22 a day number, I think is absolute trash. I think it's probably in the realms of 60, 70 a day, because the true numbers that are unreported or underreported are not existent, right? We know that through Brown University, they've delivered a number of 30,177 veterans that have taken their life over the last 20 years.
Terrible.
Now, in that same
that's a division, almost a division of people.
Yes, absolutely. And that number is probably well over 100,000 if we're to really collect the data appropriately. But in the same respect, in that 20-year war, there's only been just over 7,000 combat deaths. So we are here at home killing ourselves in greater numbers to the tune of nearly 4.5, a factor of, than the enemy has ever been able to do to us. Why is that? We have some big problems.
Right? I agree.
And we need to find new ways of treatment. So I'm of the mind, and I practice this modality of treatment myself, and I'm active in my treatment and my spiritual progression. It's the use of psychedelics. We are now in an epidemic of immense proportions, and we need to get away from the traditional modalities of treatment. Mushroom, psilocybin, ayahuasca, DMT, 5-MeO DMT, these are all showing positive effects and efficacy towards healing veterans that are suffering from significant trauma, combat related or related to bringing in before military services, and breaking the behavior and the pattern that is struggling with these veterans that leads them to taking their life. So, that's what we've been doing with the Veteran Mental Health and Leadership Coalition, the Grunstyle Foundation.
And it's not about getting stoned, right? It's not about the vet wanting to get stoned. It's about him trying to cope, or her trying to cope with just the travesties that they've endured. It's not about getting
Yes,
stoned, folks.
not at all. Listen, like this is not recreational stuff.
No.
And there's something that we talk about within this community a lot. That's if you disrespect the plant will disrespect you. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is not a form of recreation. This is medicine work, right?
Mm-hmm.
These plants have been given to us by whoever it is that you believe, or if you are just a science person, these plants were given to us as a form of spiritual and medicinal treatment, and they should be treated with that respect and that reverency, and be done in controlled environments that are facilitated by professionals.
Yep.
And that is what we're advocating for. All we want is access to this in a controlled environment, so that my friends are not killing themselves anymore. My best friend
Yep.
just took his life not too long ago, April of this year, and I'm still fucked up over that. It has messed me. It has brought me backwards in my own treatment and my own advances of my mental health, and it's sad.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
sad.
I mean, it's
My only wish is I would have gotten to him faster with this form of medicine.
that. Yeah, it's
And we
terrible when you
could have
think about
probably
it.
changed that outcome.
And look at the talent or what we've lost. Or if somebody, it's the same as kids killing kids. What have we lost by someone's death? We could have the cure for cancer. The person say, hey, I know how to go to Mars, or whoever. We've lost that, and then you can never reclaim it. Never.
Yeah, it is it is difficult. It is difficult, and this is the struggle of our time, and something. And listen, I'm not short sighted either. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the things that I speak towards are veteran related.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't fall on deaf ears. This is a national problem. The mental health within our country right now, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen,
terrible.
it's piss poor. It's
Yeah.
piss poor. COVID really ripped the mask off of what most of us have been hiding on
Mm-hmm.
our
Yeah.
day-to-day lives, and it is no longer something that is you're able to hide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because shit is crazy these
Yep.
days, and people are struggling to cope with all that's happening, and the mental health is in serious decline. And our answer as a pharmaceutical
Mm-hmm.
response is, let's just dope you up on SSRIs and inhibitors and upticks.
Right.
That's not doing anything for us, but making these farmers, the big pharma, more rich, right?
Oh yeah.
We've seen the outcomes of that.
Crazy. That's crazy. That's great. So, uh, so folks, go out and look at the books. Go out and get them. Gruntstyle.com. I've seen them. Beautiful, absolutely spectacular. And go to your local Grunt Style store. They got a beautiful little headquarters down in San Antonio. I just went to the Grunt Style store in the Allen Outlet Mall because there ain't a crazy bastard in the world that will stop me from going to that outlet mall. Right?
Yeah.
I don't care. Everybody
That was tough.
do that.
That was really
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you got to go and do it. Don't let things, so I went in there and said hi to the folks.
Fear. We can't live in fear, ladies and gentlemen. Like we're Americans, right? The one thing that we don't do is fear anybody.
Right.
And certainly shouldn't be fearful walking around in our own country. And it was a sad moment, very sad moment in Allen, Texas.
It was a travesty. But
so
if you're North Texas, folks, stop by Allen.
It's the mental state of our country. We could do a way better job. And to your point, Travis, we have Grunt Style has 17 stores across the United States right now. So we're probably within a short little adventure for anybody listening. And we'd love to have you guys, right? We are a very patriotic brand, and we believe patriotism is for everybody. Just like all of us that have raised our hand, love of country does not come in donkeys or elephants.
No.
It comes what you care about, the values and the community in which you live. Like there's no politics that's wrapped around in that, and that's where we live. We don't give a shit about politics. We just care about our love of country and this idea and the values that we share, and projecting them to for the next, and projecting them and protecting them for the next generations of Americans, so that they can take generation behind them. That's our goal. That's what we need to be doing as Americans. And I would challenge anybody. One of the things out in this country that we don't have is a mission. We don't have a mission. And that's why we're being divided.
Yeah, we don't have a goal. We have no clear objectives.
Yeah. And, find your mission. Yeah. Bring more people to your mission. That you bring as many people to your mission as you possibly can, and give people some hope that there are individuals out there that give a shit and want to see a change and make a difference, because that's where it all starts. It happens at the home, at the local community, and it builds from there. And know that you have a partner with us here at Grunstyle to support you if those are the ideals and the values that you share.
Excellent. Well, Tim, it was a pleasure meeting you a couple of weeks ago. So I really liked hanging out with you guys and learning more about you and more about the product, really about the foundation. And so success story, which you got to love, right? America, we are built on individual success for the greater good, and then sharing that with the rest of the country. So I appreciate that. Appreciate that. And folks, go get the books. They're not for kids. I mean, they're like grown-up stories
for everybody. I think
they're for everybody. Like for 5-year-old. Yep. But it's a good story because like these Medal of Honor winners or just general heroes, what a body can endure will just absolutely amaze you. What the body can endure when the mind sets something to it.
Think of it this way, Travis, and for all the listeners out there, right? Freedom is a dirty business. It is a violent business, and it is a naturally dangerous business, right? Yeah. But I would much have dangerous liberty over peaceful slavery any day of my existence. Oh, yeah. And I all your listeners would share in that sentiment. So with that, I would say check out grunstyle.com for our product and this wonderful book that we're talking about, Violent But True Bedtime Stories. Through the platform, you're able to make donations to the Grunstyle Foundation if you're so inclined to do so. We would appreciate any contribution that you would make towards what we're doing and the programs that we're standing up, the impacts we're trying to make there. Or you can go to grunstylefoundation.org and learn more about the things that we're doing and learn when we're doing them. And we'd love to have you come out and volunteer and be part of this change and part of this community effort to make a better life for our veterans and our active duty so that they can thrive.
Well, excellent. So for that, we're going to sign off. And everybody, thanks for listening to and watching Author Eke. Thank you for listening to Author Eke. There'll be another episode next week. Please stop by and start your own story. We can't wait to hear it.